Welcome to 10 Minutes a Day, a daily reading of the Catholic Church's social encyclicals. Today we continue with Populorum Progressio, written by Pope Paul VI in 1967. Populorum Progressio, Encyclical of Pope Paul VI on the Development of Peoples, March 26, 1967. To the bishops, priests, religious, and faithful of the whole Catholic world, and to all men of good will, honored brothers and dear sons, health and apostolic benediction. The progressive development of peoples is an object of deep interest and concern to the Church. This is particularly true in the case of those peoples who are trying to escape the ravages of hunger, poverty, endemic disease, and ignorance, of those who are seeking a larger share in the benefits of civilization and a more active improvement of their human qualities, of those who are consciously striving for fuller growth. With an even clearer awareness, since the Second Vatican Council, of the demands imposed by Christ's gospel in this area, the Church judges it her duty to help all men explore this serious problem in all its dimensions, and to impress upon them the need for concerted action at this critical juncture. Our recent predecessors did not fail to do their duty in this area. Their noteworthy messages shed the light of the gospel on contemporary social questions. There was Leo XIII's encyclical Rerum Novarum, Pius XI's encyclical Quadragesimo Anno, Pius XII's radio message to the world, and John XXIII's two encyclicals, Mater and Magistra, and Pacem and Terris. Today, it is most important for people to understand and appreciate that the social question ties all men together in every part of the world. John XXIII stated this clearly, and Vatican II confirmed it in its pastoral constitution on the Church and the world of today. The seriousness and urgency of these teachings must be recognized without delay. The hungry nations of the world cry out to the peoples blessed with abundance, and the Church, cut to the quick by this cry, asks each and every man to hear his brother's plea and answer it lovingly. Before we became Pope, we traveled to Latin America, 1960, and Africa, 1962. There, we saw the perplexing problems that vex and besiege these continents, which are otherwise full of life and promise. On being elected Pope, we became the father of all men. We made trips to Palestine and India, getting first-hand knowledge of the difficulties these age-old civilizations must face in their struggle for further development. Before the close of the Second Vatican Council, providential circumstances allowed us to address the United Nations and to plead the case of the impoverished nations before that distinguished assembly. Even more recently, we sought to fulfill the wishes of the Council and to demonstrate the Holy See's concern for the developing nations. To do this, we felt it was necessary to add another pontifical commission to the Church's central administration. The purpose of this commission is to awaken the people of God full in awareness of their mission today. In this way, they can further the progress of poorer nations and international social justice, as well as help less developed nations to contribute to their own development. The name of this commission, Justice and Peace, aptly describes its program and its goal. We are sure that all men of good will want to join our fellow Catholics and fellow Christians in carrying out this program. So today, we earnestly urge all men to pool their ideas and their activities for man's complete development and the development of all mankind. Section 1. Man's Complete Development. Today we see men trying to secure a sure food supply, cures for diseases, and steady employment. We see them trying to eliminate every ill, to remove every obstacle which offends man's dignity. We are continually striving to exercise greater personal responsibility, to do more, learn more, and have more, so they might increase their personal worth. And yet, at the same time, A large number of them live amid conditions which frustrate these legitimate desires. Moreover, those nations which have recently gained independence find that political freedom is not enough. They must also acquire the social and economic structures and processes that accord with man's nature and activity, if their citizens are to achieve personal growth, and if their country is to take its rightful place in the international community. Though insufficient for the immensity and urgency of the task, the means inherited from the past are not totally useless. It is true that colonizing nations were sometimes concerned with nothing save their own interests, their own power, and their own prestige. Their departure left the economy of these countries in precarious imbalance. The one-crop economy, for example, which is at the mercy of sudden, wide-ranging fluctuations in market prices. Certain types of colonialism surely caused harm and paved the way for further troubles. On the other hand, we must also reserve a word of praise for those colonizers whose skill and technical know-how brought benefits to many untamed lands, and whose work survives to this day. The structural machinery they introduced was not fully developed or perfected, but it did help to reduce ignorance and disease, to promote communication, and to improve living conditions. Granted all this, it is only too clear that these structures are no match for the harsh economic realities of today. Unless the existing machinery is modified, the disparity between rich and poor nations will increase rather than diminish. The rich nations are progressing with rapid strides, while the poorer nations move forward at a slow pace. The imbalance grows with each passing day. While some nations produce a food surplus, other nations are in desperate need of food or unsure of their export market. At the same time, social unrest has gradually spread throughout the world. The acute restlessness engulfing the poorer classes in countries that are now being industrialized has spread to other regions where agriculture is the mainstay of the economy. The farmer is painfully aware of his wretched lot. Then there are the flagrant inequalities, not merely in the enjoyment of possessions, but even more in the exercise of power. In certain regions, a privileged minority enjoys the refinements of life, while the rest of the inhabitants, impoverished and disunited, are deprived of almost all possibility of acting on their own initiative and responsibility, and often subsist in living and working conditions unworthy of the human person. Moreover, traditional culture comes into conflict with the advanced techniques of modern industrialization. Social structures out of tune with today's demands are threatened with extinction. For the older generation, the rigid structures of traditional culture are the necessary mainstay of one's personal and family life. They cannot be abandoned. The younger generation, on the other hand, regards them as useless obstacles and rejects them to embrace new forms of societal life. The conflict between generations leads to a tragic dilemma, either to preserve traditional beliefs and structures and reject social progress, or to embrace foreign technology and foreign culture, and to reject ancestral traditions with their wealth of humanism. The sad fact is that we often see the older moral, spiritual, and religious values give way without finding any place in the new scheme of things. In such troubled times, some people are strongly tempted by the alluring but deceitful promises of would-be saviors, who does not see the concomitant dangers, public upheavals, civil insurrection, and the drift towards totalitarian ideologies. These are the realities of the question under study here, and their gravity must surely be apparent to everyone. To the teaching and example of her divine founder, who cited the preaching of the gospel to the poor as a sign of his mission, the Church has never failed to foster the human progress of the nations to which she brings faith in Christ. Besides erecting sacred edifices, her missionaries have also promoted construction of hospitals, sanitariums, schools, and universities. By teaching the native population how to take full advantage of natural resources, the missionaries often protected them from the greed of foreigners. We certainly admit that this work was sometimes far from perfect, since it was the work of men. The missionaries sometimes intermingled the thought patterns and behavior patterns of their native land with the authentic message of Christ. Yet for all this, they did protect and promote indigenous institutions, and many of them pioneered in promoting the country's material and cultural progress. We only mention the efforts of Pierre Charles de Foucauld. He compiled a valuable dictionary of the Tuareg language, and his charity won him the title of everyone's brother. So we deem it fitting to praise those oft-forgotten pioneers who were motivated by love for Christ, just as we honor their imitators and successors who today continue to put themselves at the generous and unselfish service of those to whom they preach the gospel.